Video coverage for the 2011 SCCA Pro Racing Spec Racer Ford Series is brought to you by Goodyear, the official tire for the Spec Racer Ford class. After an intense battle at VIR International Raceway, which put Brian Schofield at the top of the leaderboard, the teams packed up and headed north to Mosport International Raceway in Canada. Scott Rittich's only 13 points behind Schofield, and there's a cast of talented drivers right there vying for the podium position. This race should be interesting. Welcome to SCCA Pro Racing Spec Racer Ford. Welcome to Mosport International Raceway here in Canada. This weekend, the Victoria Weekend celebration, Mosport is hosting several series, Canadian Touring Car, several Pro SCCA Series, Trans Am and World Challenge, but we're here for Spec Racer Ford. The Spec Racer Ford Series is broken up into 5 events, each event holding 2 races. If race 1 is any indication of what the rest of the season is going to be like, it's going to be a barn burner. Folks, I'm Errol Tucker, your host, and joining me from the booth will be Bill Wood giving us all of the race commentary. We're going to go to a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to give you an update on what happened at Event 1 at VIR. With so much racing going on in the world, you'd have to be a 4-headed monster to keep up with it all. Luckily, we have that. Join Peter Keene, Bill Wood, Errol Tucker, and their guest driver analyst each week for an opinionated look at the news coming out of the racing world. Remember, it's GoRacingTV.com for all your racing and video needs. Video coverage of the 2011 SCCA Pro Racing Spec Racer Ford Series is brought to you by Goodyear, the official tire for the Spec Racer Ford class. GoPro, the official onboard camera of GoRacingTV, and SCCA Enterprise.
Welcome back to GoRacingTV! Woo!
Last week was the doubleheader opening of the Spec Racer Ford Series at Virginia International Raceway, where Brian Schofield managed to take the top spot in the standings, with Scott Rettich trailing behind him by only 13 points. Here's how it unfolded. Race 1 was an exciting one, with Rettich Spicer sitting at the pole position at the start of the race.
You know, I kind of owe that to Rob Stewart. He was able to push me down the back straight, and we got a real good lap. We actually got held up through roller coaster and hog pen, so it could have been a better lap. But pole's great, but winning the race is a little more important to me. So,
and it showed. Spicer would hold that lead during the first couple of laps, but eventually Rob Stewart would make his way to the front of the pack, where he and Spicer would battle for the top spot. Brian Schofield soon made his way into the mix as well, which would set the stage for the final laps of the race.
Made the pass, and Richard made a great move. Just good, clean, hard race, and we made contact. And I ended up spinning and ended up finishing 4th. But in all, it was good points day.
It would seem that Spicer and Schofield both have a long racing history that would do them some good.
You know, Brian and I have had a lot of experience racing each other at VIR, so I expected the race to come down to he and I, and that's what happened. He attempted a last lap pass. I was able to pass him back, and so it was a great race for us.
Spicer would finish the race with a time that was just 0.251 seconds faster than Scott Rettich. Here's what Scott Rettich had to say.
You know, we had a battle of 4 of us there at the front, and I got up into the lead briefly, and went into the race in 2nd, which is definitely a great result and a great way to start the season.
With the tone set, the drivers made their way back to the track for race number 2 of the weekend. This time, Brian Schofield would find himself in the pole position. And just like Spicer, he found himself leading the first couple of laps.
Race 2 was good. I was on the pole. Race 1 I started P3, and I knew from the pole if I could stay up there. Scott and I had a good battling. He had a better car than me, but once again I saved my tires, saved it for the end, and made a last lap pass and got by him and ended up taking the win.
Rettich, obviously not content with second place, would make his way to the front of the pack to attempt to make this race his. To say the least, it was a battle between these two drivers right to the very end.
Well, there was definitely multiple lead changes. I led the middle of the race for a while, and I led last 3 laps, and then I led going in the last couple of corners, but I just got drafted by there in the last couple corners.
And Schofield would take the win and the lead in the series. Rettich, taking 2 seconds, was able to stay in a healthy position in the standings. But it's still anybody's series. Let's take a look at the standings at the end of Event 1. Now on to this week's event at Mosport International Raceway. Mosport International Raceway is going to be one of the more challenging tracks that this series comes to visit throughout the 2011 season. Let's jump on board with Scott Rettich as he takes us through a hot lap on this historic track. Going down the front straightaway, you go into turn 1, and on these Spec Racer Fords, this is pretty much a flat-out turn. They may lift and then bring it all the way out to the rumble strips. Coming up into turn 2, this is a very challenging corner because you crest the hill, the car gets a little light. This is a double apex turn, and this turn will catch a lot of cars out there, a lot of drivers this weekend. We go into Quebec corner, which is also turn 3, and here you're really starting to stretch it out as you go down into turn 4. Now, the video here does not really give a true story of the elevation change that happens at this track. At this turn here, you're going way down into a valley, and then you pop up into Moss Corner. And it's pretty much a blind turn as you pop up over that crest. It sets you up, and you want to get this correct. This sets you up for Andretti Straight, Mario Andretti Straight. And this is the longest straightaway on the track. As you can see, Scott Rettich timed this perfectly because he got a real good draft off of the car in front of you, and that's definitely what you want as you come down this straightaway. Now, this straightaway has a little bit of elevation change, so therefore it kind of goes up and then it goes down, and you'll watch your car in the revs. This is a very high-speed sweeper, turn 8, which is also known as the S's, and really high-speed sweeper, and it sets you up as you go through 9 and 10 to come right back up onto the front straightaway. You draw this all the way out to the rumble strips on the front straightaway, so once again it sets you up for turn 1 as you go down the front straightaway. And that's a hot lap here at Mosport International Raceway.
Thanks, Errol. Let's look at the qualifying for the SCCA Pro Spec Racer Ford Series, the 3rd round here at Mosport International Raceway. The pole sitter, Scott Rettich, Camden, Ohio. He's in car 17. He was the top qualifier and one of the fastest in the series. His 1:35.307 was just a tick ahead of Brian Schofield in car 61 from Lakeland, Florida. Richard Spicer was 3rd, Laurel, Maryland. He's in car 65. Jeffrey Lehner, car 77 from Johnstown, New York. Rounding out the top 5, Jean-Luc Liverato, car number 8, Alpharetta, Georgia. You can see the next 10, McNeish, Sweeney, Harris, and Reed, followed by Michael Hausknecht in 10th. Of that list, Brian Schofield is the points leader, followed by Scott Rettich, Richard Spicer, Rob Stewart, Carl Harris. Those are the top 5 in points after the first 2 rounds at Virginia International Raceway. Let's get this underway. The field is coming around turn 10 at Mosport in front of the corporate hospitality tents, headed for the start-finish line. Our front row 17 Rettich and 61 Schofield headed for turn 1. We're in the car with Schofield. He's been forced outside by pole sitter Scott Rettich. Richard Spicer falls in behind him at the apex of turn 1. Schofield and Spicer follow Rettich. We look back from the 03 of Reed, who qualified 9th and has jumped up to 7th early in lap 1. Herb Sweeney is number 34. On board with Sweeney, watching Reed take the inside from 49, Carl Harris. Reed moving forward over the 2 cars who qualified ahead of him. That's number 22, Lee McNeish, who qualified 6th. Let's see what Jean-Luc Liverato is doing. Car 8, He qualified 5th. He's 5th in points. Liverato was 7th and 5th in the first 2 races at VIR this season. We get in with Rettich Spicer, qualified 3rd. He's running 3rd halfway through lap 1. This is Brian Schofield with a better line through this right-hander. That's race leader Scott Rettich in front of him. Reed is still in a battle with McNeish and Sweeney, but Sweeney is under a head of steam and answers some of that Reed speed. In fact, both Sweeney and McNeish answer Reed. Not sure if there's a problem. He moved from 9th on the grid, up the ladder, and now he's backing up. Wow, look at Liverato. He's pressing Jeffrey Lehner, who was 4th on the grid. Liverato was 5th, but literally pushing Lehner now. Bump drafting on turn 1 with Richard Wheel, car 24, headed into the S's at Mosport, on to the front straight. And there you see the leaders, Rettich from the pole in 1st, Schofield from 2nd, still 2nd, and Spicer from 3rd, still 3rd at the end of lap 1. Lehner, Liverato finish the top 5. McNeish, Reed, Harris, Sweeney, and Hausknecht are the top 10. Reed and Sweeney are in their battle. Sweeney takes aim on Reed as Reed tries to work his way under Carl Harris. Sweeney getting the upper hand on the inside of Reed here. Reed has fallen back a couple car lengths. They were both at VIR for rounds 1 and 2 on the season. Sweeney and Reed were 17th and 18th at the start of this race in Mosport. Number 11, Tom Riley, qualified 12th and fell back to 14th after lap 1. Here Riley wants to dive under 24 Richard Wheel midway through lap 2 and makes the pass, taking the inside fast line through the turn. Let's check back at the front where Rettich Spicer is drafting behind Schofield. They're in a battle for 2nd on lap 3. Both are using all the road. The rumble strips are fast, but they aren't smooth. Some don't like what they do to the car's handling. Spicer and Schofield, along with race leader Scott Rettich, have led most of the laps in Spec Racer Ford this year. When you get cars that are close in performance, sometimes the best way to pass is to get right behind, or draft the car in front of you to let him break the air and use your power to try the pass eventually, and that's what Spicer does, taking the inside line and 2nd away from Schofield. This is great racing. Spicer opens a quick few car lengths on Schofield. We're through the S's at the end of lap 3. Rettich still in the lead, followed by Spicer and Schofield. Lehner in car 77 and Liverato in the black 8 round the top 5. McNeish, Harris, Sweeney, Reed, and Hausknecht round the top 10. 2 brothers in the back of the field, Mark Vultaggio in 11th and Frank Vultaggio in 16th. They're both from Appalachian, New York. At the front, Rettich and Spicer look close as brothers, but they're not making dinner plans. They're turning almost identical race speeds. Spicer's fastest lap came just now. Richard Wheel comes off the turn with more momentum than Riley in car 11. Riley, in fact, may be having some trouble. He points 2 cars by him, Wheel in number 24 and Youngma in number 44. They pass on the right. Riley is backing up from 13th on lap 5 early in the race. Back at the front, Rettich still in control, but Spicer closing. A little tighter line in turn 10 allows him to gain on Rettich. Both are separating from the field. They're pulling away from Schofield, Lehner, Reed, and McNeish, and Sweeney, who's on a charge, coming up through the pack. And we see Riley is having problems. He's moving into the pits in a 20-lap race. That's disastrous. Tough for Riley from New Fairfield, Connecticut. It's a beautiful day in eastern Canada. We're at Mosport. That's turn 1. They're passing corporate hospitality tents and general camping, headed up the hill towards Clayton Corner. This is the SCCA Pro Spec Racer Ford Series. We'll be right back right after.
The club, an amateur racer. Here at GoRacingTV, we salute you. And we want to give you all the tools and info to compete with the best. Find out how to do it all from your own garage by watching our Club Racer and Autocrosser shows. GoRacingTV.com, supplying all your video racing needs. Video coverage of the 2011 SCCA Pro Racing Spec Racer Ford Series is brought to you by Goodyear, the official tire for the Spec Racer Ford class. GoPro, the official onboard camera of GoRacingTV, and SCCA Enterprise.
Welcome back to Mosport. This is the SCCA Pro Spec Racer Ford Series. There you see the effects of drafting. Sweeney pulls right up to Carl Harris and takes 7th from Harris on lap 7. Sweeney's from Houston, Texas. He qualified 7th, about a second off the pole, so he has speed. Watch. Sweeney's still on the move. He takes the line and the position from McNeish. Next is Liverato. Look how Sweeney moves directly behind Jean-Luc, again setting him up for a drafting pass. He's looking for that toe even now. We're looking back from Liverato's car, number 8 at Herb Sweeney. Sweeney, at the end of lap 7, had moved steadily from 7th, where he qualified the 5th, where he ended up with the drafting pass on the outside of Liverato. It takes a moment for the 34 to get around Liverato, but he is the faster car and he will make the pass. Liverato can't fight him off. In fact, when he gets around him, Liverato can't respond. That proves he's the faster car, and Sweeney moves away. A very clean line, avoiding the rumble strips. This is a good drive. The field, top qualifier Scott Rettich, followed by Rettich Spicer, Brian Schofield, Jeffrey Lehner, Sweeney are the top 5. The fastest cars are the ones running the cleaner lines, taking advantage of drafting whenever they can. That's number 4, Thomas Cirillo, going into the pits at the end of lap 9. Moving to lap 11, that's 24, Richard Wheels, spinning all alone in turn 1 and keeping his position in 14th. At the front, Rettich and Spicer nose to tail. Look at the separation they've made from the field. When you aren't fighting, you can do that. Drafting away from the field halfway through the race opens up a good separation. Lap 13, we're in with Robert Reed, Saratoga Springs, New York, watching McNeish in 22, passing 28 Bruce Myers from New Hampshire for 10th. Actually, this is a good time for Reed to make some ground on his own. He's got 2 cars that are cutting the air right in front of him. But in order to draft, you have to be close enough, and Reed wasn't close enough to take advantage of what fell in his lap at this part of the race. Reed comes up on Myers but can't make his move going into the S's. As we get to the last 5 laps of the race, we see Spicer making his move, drafting on Rettich on Mary Andretti straight. He moves out to make his pass, but Rettich won't give it up. He has the line and won't let Spicer pass on the outside. But Spicer makes a smart move right here. He gets right back behind Rettich, not racing him side by side to set up another pass later. And this might work. He has the inside line going into turn 1, the right-hander at the end of the start-finish straight. This should work, and it does. Rettich held the lead from the drop of the flag, but had to give it up 15 laps later. And it looks like Spicer is faster as he opens up a lead on Rettich after drafting him for 12 laps in the middle of the race. Rettich tries to answer with the same tactic, drafting, but Spicer seems to have more speed. Rettich just can't get close enough to draft and take advantage of a speed differential. And that's the way it closes. Let's listen to the track announcer make it official.
This one belongs to Richard Spicer.
So here's the finish. Richard Spicer got the win by about a quarter of a second over Scott Rettich. They controlled the race almost from the start. Third was Brian Schofield, more than 17 seconds back from those front 2. Fourth was number 77, Jeffrey Lehner, another 5 seconds back. Completing the top 5, Herb Sweeney, another 4 seconds back from Lehner. Rounding out the top 10, Harris, Liverato, Reed, Vultaggio, this Mark, and Myers. The win moves Richard Spicer to within 2 points of Rettich after 3 rounds of racing in the SCCA Pro Spec Racer Ford Series. Third is Brian Schofield, another 3 points back, and that puts only 5 points between the top 3 drivers as we move to round 4 at Mosport, a super tight championship. Great racing today. I'm Bill Wood. Back to you, Errol.
Race 3 is now in the books, and Richard Spicer takes a first place in the contest after an intense battle with second place finisher Scott Rettich.
Yeah, I really wanted to win, after leading the most laps and leading for so long. And, we're looking pretty good there. And the rain, just didn't quite suit my car setup quite as well. And I hate to give a win away, but second place points, and keeping the car in one piece is definitely a plus.
And the series leader coming into this race, Brian Schofield, took the 3rd spot due to some car trouble that plagued him earlier in the day.
Yeah, it was a tough race. I didn't have the speed those guys had. Yesterday I had a little accident. I backed it in the wall, so I was just going to take it easy. Once I knew I couldn't run with him, I was just pedaling, making laps, and going to be happy with a 3rd and a car that was rolling at the end of this race. Maybe tomorrow I'll get some confidence up, and I know where I can get the speed.
Now let's hear from the race winner, Rettich and Spicer.
Scott was half a second faster than us or more, in the test day and the qualifying. So, in my mind, I was just like, if I could just hang on, maybe I could pick up something. And he had a bobble in one when the rain came, and I got just enough of a gap to make it happen.
Congratulations, Richard. Now let's head down to the pits to find out how some of the other drivers did. First up is 4th place finisher Jeffrey Lehner and 2nd place finisher Robert Reed.
I felt I finished as well as I could. The top 3 were very fast, and guys behind me were fast and coming, and with the rain coming down here and there, it made it real sketchy at the end. Very happy to finish 4th.
I was just happy to finish the race because it started raining, and the guys in front of me weren't very comfortable in some of the fast spots in the rain, and we'd get a pretty good run on them, and then they'd get all crossed up, and it was getting ugly out there for a while. But it was a fun race, really fun race. I think I was like 8th. Finished 8th, but still, it doesn't matter if you're 8th or 15th or 20th, you have a good time out here.
Now over to 7th place finisher, Herb Sweeney.
I'm pretty happy with my performance today. The start of my race was a little shaky. I missed a shift taking the green, so I fell back a couple positions and had to work my way back up through the field, which was a real blast. All the drivers out there were very clean, and I think it was a great day all in all. Really looking forward to tomorrow and starting up a few spaces up higher in the grid and seeing what happens.
Now the Vultaggio brothers, with Mark placing 11th and Frank placing 16th.
I think it went well. It made the downhill blind turns a little more difficult because you couldn't see as well, and being slippery and a lot of negative camber, we had to slow down a little bit. You never knew what kind of traction you would have lap to lap.
Yeah, this track's so fast to begin with, and you're right on the edge with the camber issues and the uphills and downhills. When they add the little element of rain, it just makes it that much more exciting.
With rain in the forecast tomorrow, you have to wonder what these drivers have planned.
I like racing in the rain, so it should be a fun time. This is definitely a difficult track when it gets a little slick out there, but we'll look forward to seeing what happens tomorrow.
Well, keep it on the track's the plan, and go fast. With rain tires, you don't have to worry. You know what you're up against as you go around.
It's going to take a really tight field and even tighten it up even more. The rain's a big equalizer, and we're going to have that much more fun. I've not driven here yet in the rain, so it's going to be a new experience for me.
Thanks, guys. Coming back after this quick break, we'll find out how the drivers did in the second race of the weekend and a quick word from our sponsor, Goodyear.
Hi there, I'm Tom Natcher. This is Greg Kramer. We're called the old bastards of racing in many circles. I guess we met back in the late 1980s.
Easy. It had to be at least that far back. Glory day of some racing, too.
Oh, absolutely. Trans Am was a part of the picture, and actually I learned to do pro announcing from this man around the Trans Am Championship. Oh, that is a long time ago.
A very long time ago, but I'll tell you what, you take a look at Trans Am racing in the early 90s in particular, the names that were running at that time. But the other side of the story was World Challenge was really starting to come alive at that point. And the names in that, there were sometimes you'd look at the two rosters and go, I'm not sure which one is the most talent. Some amazing stuff from those decades past. And of course, a lot of those drivers also doubling up, running amateur racing in the runoffs. And it was spectacular stuff.
Now, GoRacingTV has got all of that action, Trans Am World Challenge, and even some runoff material, all coming up over the next season. That's going to be something to watch.
I know. To be able to relive those 2 decades of motorsports from the Sports Car Club of America's Pro Racing Department, Trans Am World Challenge, and then you include the National Amateur Championships, the runoff, the intense battles that unfolded there. It simply doesn't get any better than that, and it lives again right here on GoRacingTV.com.
Because I need to spend more time in front of my computer. Welcome back to the SCCA Pro Spec Racer Ford race at Mosport. This is race 4 in the series. I'm Bill Wood. We'll check on Scott Rettich and Richard Spicer in a minute. The race right now is happening between Carl Warren, who's putting a pass on McNeish, number 22. This is for 12th place in the race. When we went to break, we asked if Richard Spicer could catch Scott Rettich. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. Rettich is running his own race. At the end of lap 6, he's opened up maybe a 3-second lead on the rest of the field, including Spicer. So we get in with Richard Wheel, who's chasing number 13, Carl Warren, who's moved up from the back of the pack into 11th on lap 6. Wheel has momentum and dives to the left, taking the line into the turn. Liverato comes up on Bruce Myers, who's slowing. We look back at Randy Youngsma, who also goes around Myers. This is a battle into the top 10, 9th, 10th, and 11th. Youngsma closes in on Liverato, momentum and draft, remember. Youngsma challenges for the position. Liverato holds him off, though. The drag race down at Andretti Straight gives him the upper hand into the next turn. Liverato pulls away from Youngsma because he has a direct line into the next turn. Youngsma could not complete the pass. Once that's decided, Liverato takes over 8th. Youngsma is in 9th. Thomas Riley seems to have some of his earlier problems worked out. He looks at Wheel and makes the pass look easy. That's a pass for position into 12th on lap 8. Wheel tries to answer, but he has nothing. He loses the draft. He can't answer. They're going under the flag stand on lap 8. On lap 10, let's look back at Jean-Luc Liverato. He's in 7th, holding that position from any challenge from Youngsma. In fact, Youngsma is about to have his hands full with Michael Hausknecht, who's coming up behind him. We can see the battle from the back of Liverato's car. By the end of 11th, Scott Rettich has just checked out. He's put about 3 seconds on Spicer, and Spicer has at least 5 seconds on the rest of the field. That's at the end of lap 11. But let's look at some of those battles. Brian Schofield in 3rd is looking back at Carl Harris in 4th. This is lap 13. Harris is wide on the rumble strips. We've talked about that before. That's not necessarily the fastest way around. Now we're in with Wheel. He's closing on Warren on lap 16. Wheel's in 11th. Warren is in 10th. But Warren drops a wheel. This is what I just said. Warren drops a wheel, loses control, spins in front of Wheel. Wheel T-bones Warren. Wheel suffers some body damage and coasts off the track. Let's look at that from Warren's car. He goes too wide, gets on the rumble strips. These cars are too light to handle all of that jarring to the suspension. He loses control, spins in front of Wheel. Wheel T-bones him. It's Wheel that does the damage to his car. You see the bodywork flapping there. Warren slows down to check in, make sure he's okay. He checks his suspension, makes sure everything is okay by jiggling the wheel back and forth. He gets back into the action. That was lap 16. Let's go ahead to lap 20, the end of the race. And we see Scott Rettich crossing the finish line in 1st. He led flag to flag. Richard Spicer was 2nd. He qualified 3rd, took 2nd from Schofield on lap 4, and kept it for the rest of the way. Schofield was 3rd. Jeffrey Lehner was 4th. Herb Sweeney, Carl Harris, Jean-Luc Liverato, Randy Youngsma, Bruce Myers, and Lee McNeish. Those were the top 10 drivers. Race 4, SCCA Spec Racer Ford Series here at Mosport. Let's look at the championship now. At the beginning of this race, Rettich was only up 2 points on Richard Spicer. This flag-to-flag win and qualifying on the pole, that gives him now a 13-point lead over Spicer. Schofield is 3rd, Carl Harris, Liverato. That's the top 5. Bruce Myers, Frank Vultaggio, Michael Hausknecht, Tom Riley, and Richard Wheel. Those are the top 10. The series now takes the summer off. It will return to Canada August 5, 6, and 7 at Three Rivers, Trois-Rivières for the next 2 rounds in the championship. Stay tuned to GoRacingTV for the SCCA Spec Racer Ford Championship. I'm Bill Wood for GoRacingTV.
After a string of second places, Scott Rettich managed to take the top spot in the second race of the weekend.
You know, it was an awesome race. You know, I started on pole and held the lead, and after the first few laps started to open up a slightly comfortable lead, and from there I just hammered down and did try not to make any mistakes. And you know, my team, Alliance Autosport, gave me an incredible car, and you know, I got to thank all my other sponsors, Goodyear, Redline, PDA Communications, and Springboro Car Wash.
Richard Spicer landed second place, which will be enough to keep him up with Rettich in the point standings. After an amazing show this weekend, he deserves it.
I could see that I was, you know, maybe cutting into Scott's lead, and, you know, I was driving 9.9, 10 tenths, and I looked up at the board, and there were 7 laps to go, and I'm just like, I'm not sure that there's really enough time to make it worth me trying for a whole another 7 laps. I said, so let me just back it down a little bit and bring the car home all in one piece, and we'll fight another day.
And Brian Schofield leaves Mosport with 2 third-place finishes, which will push him down to 3rd place in the point standings. Let's hear what he has to say.
Well, I made some changes last night. Actually, I threw everything at the car, and I actually threw too much at it. Early on, I got a run on Scott and was right underneath his tail, and I haven't been close enough to anybody all weekend. And coming on over here, coming on the front straightaway, I just got front end washout and just lost all the air, and the car pushed right off. I thought I was going to be in the wall hard. I ended up saving it, but it bottled up Richard, and we could never close the gap on Scott. And from there, my car was just awful, and I was just holding on. I just adjusted too much.
This was definitely an exciting weekend here at Mosport International Raceway during the Victoria Weekend celebration. We'd like to thank the folks from SCCA Pro Racing and the Spec Racer Ford Series for putting on a great show, and our sponsors, Goodyear Tires and GoPro, for making this all possible. From the folks here at GoRacingTV, we'd like to thank you for watching, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks at Trois-Rivières in Quebec, Canada.
All right, we'll see you at Trois-Rivières.
We'll see you at Trois-Rivières.
See you at Trois-Rivières.
Take care.
Well, Greg Creamer, GoRacingTV.com has done it again. They've come up with reruns of the Viper Racing Series, which you and I are kind of interested in.
Very interested in. And folks, if you haven't seen this, tune in, because that racing is absolutely spectacular. These special spec cars that they've come up with, the performance level of these things, Tom, has been spectacular. The racing close, celebrity guest drivers of sorts that get in the mix and have some fun. And what it's actually turned into is an incredibly exciting series. In its debut year, but you can revisit it right here at GoRacingTV.com.
And about the 5th best thing about the series is that Greg and I host it. We'll see you on GoRacingTV.com coming up this season.
Way down the lane.
Way